This is the Success Coach Andy podcast. I'm Andy Shepherd of Shepherd Success Coaching. I'm doing these podcasts to complement my successful talk radio show of the same name, Success Coach Andy, on Independent Talk 1100 KFNX. I'm a Tony Robbins certified success coach, radio presenter, speaker and author. In this podcast series, I'll give you the technologies and tools that will totally transform your life in every way possible, from financial to professional, your love life. In my case, it was down to even the country that I lived in. These tools are super powerful. So whatever it is that you want to change, whatever you want to accomplish, you will find the tools here. So in this podcast, I'm going to be talking about out with the bad and in with the good. So Tony Robbins agrees with what I'm going to say here. The quality of our lives is dependent on the quality of our questions. So we're going to ask a few really quality questions here. So what do we really want? What do we really want with whatever it is that we're desiring? Okay, so just bear with me. I don't want to upset you, but basically most people don't really know what they want, or what they want isn't right for them, or it isn't wanted for the right reasons, and so it isn't a good fit. So bear with me and I'll explain this. The biggest problem we have. So like I say, this is going to maybe ruffle a few feathers here. So if we're going in the wrong direction, you'd want to know, wouldn't you? So here it is. I'm going to kind of pull off the band-aid here as quickly as I can and just get stuck in. Most people don't know what they really want. They think they know what they really want, but is whatever they really want going to give them what they really, really want? And what is it that they really, really want? No, don't worry, I haven't gone crazy because my air conditioner is broken and I'm in the middle of a heat wave or something like that. So let me explain. Most of us think that we want to have maybe a few $1 million, we want to have a mansion, we want to have a big house, a big expensive car, maybe a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini, something like that. Well, apart from financial freedom, which is something wonderful to strive for, and that's basically another matter, why do we want all of these things? So we want them for how they're going to make us feel. So let me explain this. If you're driving a brand new Rolls Royce or a brand new Bentley, Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever it is, it's going to make you feel a whole different to driving, say, an old VW Beetle, 1960s VW Beetle. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with VW Beetles, obviously, but not just the whole experience of how the ride is going with it, but it's like, what does it make you feel? So for somebody who is driving a Rolls Royce, maybe they're doing it because they're saying, hey, this is kind of showing everybody that where I am now is, I'm a pretty important person and I've really made it in life. Or maybe for them, it's like I say, it's a status symbol. Or for other people, they're kind of rubbing everybody's face in the fact that that person, the other people don't have anything. And they're saying, hey, look at me, I'm far superior to you. I remember there's a star of a kind of soap opera which is famous in the UK, and she drove a Rolls Royce because it was a beautiful car to drive. And she said, I wish that everybody could have this car because it is amazing. So you can see there's different reasons behind a product like buying a car, for example. Obviously, if you're going to be driving around in a battered old VW Beetle, it's going to be making you feel a whole lot different. So that's just a very simple example of these things. So we need to look at, why is it that we want whatever we want? So, a lot of thing is going to be down to what society is telling us. Society tells us that we should be a certain way and we should be reaching a certain level, be achieving certain things, and within a certain peer group, for example, going back to the Rolls-Royce example, then a Rolls-Royce, a Bentley would be a must. I mean, if you're a pop star or a football player, you need to be driving around in a Lamborghini, don't you, or a Bentley. It's just part of it. It's like a tool for this. So like I say, that's a completely different matter. But if you're just going from the point of view of getting something, you need to know, like I say, just concentrate on the feeling. And I keep talking about this, and this is going to be something that is important as I develop this discussion. So everything that we want is down to a feeling. I'll give you another example of this. For example, when I was younger, I made a decision. I thought, I'm going to date the most beautiful women that there are. Whatever girlfriend I have, she's going to be the most beautiful woman out there. She's going to be like a model. She's going to be amazing. Because I thought, well, there's got to be, I could see around me there were countless beautiful women. And I thought, well, at least one of these women is going to like me. It's statistical. So why not? I can make this happen. And I guess I grew my confidence, and I got to know how to talk to ladies, and I really did date some amazingly beautiful women. I'm very, very fortunate. When I look back, though, I realised where I was. It's kind of in my early 20s. I was all about significance. That was one thing that was really, really important to me. So part of my significance was by being with somebody very, very beautiful. And that was my motivation. It didn't matter to me as much the qualities of that person, though obviously I did find somebody with great qualities. As I grow older now, my what I'm looking for are very, very much different. So what I'm looking for in a partner is that I'm looking for somebody who is going to be loving and who's going to really support me and is going to understand me, going to have similar interests. And so it's completely different. So the feeling that I was getting previously was that I wanted significance, and that's why I went for that type of woman. So we think about other things. I mean, everything for me was, I was a big show-off in those days. So I had a Mercedes. I would go around in Pierre Cardin suits and silk ties and all the rest of it. And I guess that's kind of understanding for, like I say, for the age that I was. So that was the most important thing to me. So we just look at how things are making us feel. It might, for example, with a car, it could be you might drive a Rolls-Royce because it's giving you security that you'll get to the end of the journey because it's not going to break down. If you're driving a beaten up VW Beetle, then you're not going to feel very secure at all. And for some people, it's like an adventure. Hey, I mean, how many people have got like second-hand cars and it breaks down all the time? And it's like an adventure to them. They've got half the toolkit in the back of the car, and if it breaks down, so what? It's like part of the challenge. They enjoy that. So concentrate on the feeling. So answering the questions that I was talking about, we need to look at what stops us from getting what we want. So what is stopping us? Well, it's got to be down to us at the end of the day. When we can get to the point when we can really accept that whatever happens to us is our fault, is down to us. I don't care what it is, whether it's down to, and this is a difficult one, whether it's down to an illness, whether it's down to lack of money, whether it's down to the people who are around us, then, we have to say, well, it's my fault and take responsibility. And I know that's a tough one, because you say, well, is it my fault that I have the parents that I have, that I was born in the country that I was, and so on and so on? Well, I'm not going to go into that. That's really deep. If you go into like karma, stuff like this, then maybe that'll explain of it. But we just need to make that responsibility and say it's my fault. Because when you're pointing out and saying it's somebody else's fault, then life gets tough, because you're blaming somebody else. You're not taking responsibility. And if you're not taking responsibility, you're not going to move forward, because you're going to be looking for somebody else to be making the change for you, when the change needs to be made inside of yourself. So ultimately, we're stopping us from getting what we want. So this can be part of what's happened in the past. Psychology looks at childhood incidents, and it looks at what has been created through this childhood incident to give us some kind of subconscious programming. And this is the kind of scary part, because it's almost like we're robots, if you like, with our subconscious, and we're just kind of doing stuff that's blind. We don't know what is making us do it, and we're just going out and doing it. And a lot of this is sabotaging us, is stopping us from being the best that we can and getting the most out of our life. And why I've dedicated my life to be working as a life coach, as a presenter, as an author, to be able to unravel that for as many people as possible. So this conditioning, I mean, basically this is something that Pavlov came out with. We all know this. His experiments with the dogs, and he proved that he can condition them by ringing the bell at the same time as showing meat. And he got it to a stage where they would still be salivating just by ringing the bell. So, and this proved that animals could be conditioned, and then he showed that people can be conditioned as well. So that's the basis of it all. We're using conditioning all the time in advertising. This is a great example. So for example, if you see Beyonce advertising Pepsi, that's a great example, because what's Beyonce doing? You see Beyonce and you're going to get a state change. You're going to feel good seeing her. She's an attractive woman. So, and or listening to her music's going to be a good experience. You're going to feel good. Most people anyway. I mean, it's going to be people who don't like her, and they're going to have the opposite. But the majority of people are going to think, well, that's great. She's doing great stuff. So you're getting in a great state there. So you're feeling good. So then they show Pepsi, a can of Pepsi beside her. And then, well, they show the Pepsi, and then they show her. You feel good about her, they show the Pepsi. And then you show her the music, then the Pepsi. And you join the two together. So this is like a conditioned response. This is kind of called anchoring. This is used a lot in this is the basis of advertising, basically. It's one of the strong things. Another would be, if you're listening to this, what is that? This is a ka-ching button. So if you hear that, you start thinking about money immediately. By the way, if you want to get one of those, that's Joel Combs' ka-ching button. Go to ka-ching, KACHING button.com. I'm saying that because there's some people who are saying, hey, I want one of these. Now you know how to. So that's another association. We listen to that sound and immediately we start thinking of money. So it's all around. Another example of how we're programmed would be, I mean, it can be really at a very deep level. So for example, you can have somebody who's got fear of green. Or how can somebody be frightened of the colour green? That's insane. It isn't. What happens in the past could be that a baby is on a chair and there's a green carpet below. The baby crawling, wriggling around, boom, hits the floor. Last thing the baby sees is green. So it's like sees green, feels pain. So they put back on the chair again, not realizing what's happened. So the baby is like wriggling around, doing baby stuff, and boom, hits the carpet again. And the last thing it sees before the pain is green. So very quickly, the baby is going to associate green with pain. And so just the sight of green will give a conditioned response, just like Pavlov and his dogs. So, this is pretty scary stuff. And, we are being programmed all the time. And it's the job of people like psychologists, and coaches like myself to unravel all of that, and for us to have the right associations with the way that we want things to be. So, what can we do to remove these obstacles? Like I say, most of the time, well, we can use sheer willpower to do them. That's possible. We can just say, mind over matter, I'm going to do it. But, let's face it. If you're doing it like that, how efficient is it? How much energy are you depleting? How much more could you resolve? How more efficient would you be if you were doing it, if you weren't using raw energy to do it? A lot more, I believe. So we could even do nothing. And that's what often people do. If you do nothing, you get nothing. So you're not going to resolve anything, are you? So that's not a good option either, I guess. So in my opinion, obviously you need to do something about it. So a coach or a therapist would be a good idea. Coaching generally tends to work much quicker than therapy. Therapy sometimes can take 3 or 5 years, whatever. If you're going through a psychology path, then that can be, literally something like a 5-year process. And coaching can be much quicker. You're talking a matter of sessions, half an hour to an hour, something like that. You can just make a breakthrough. I've done plenty of those in my time. You can also work, so how does this work? You're working with timeline therapy. So timeline therapy goes back to the incident and finds out the first occurrence of whatever it is that's anchored. Like with the baby, it would be the point where where that person fell off the chair. Maybe a therapist couldn't go back that far. Maybe a hypnotherapist could. So, and then you do something what's called collapsing the anchor, and that's a process that we do. This is just technical terms. You don't need to know this. A coach knows how to do this. And if you quickly, what you're doing is you create a positive anchor. You've got the negative anchor. You trigger the two at the same time. They cancel each other. Boom, it's done. Something you need to do with somebody who's qualified, who knows what they're doing for it to be effective. I'm trained in this. I'm certified by Tony Robbins and Cloe Madanes. So if anybody wants to do that, be a pleasure. So why do we want what we want? So most of the time, it is to give us a needed state change, to make us feel better. So like I gave with the example of the Rolls Royce, it's going to make you, if you've got a Rolls Royce, then it's going to make you feel better, isn't it? Like, why do we buy new products all the time? Because it makes us feel better. Why do we need the latest iPhone? It's like, well, I've got the latest iPhone and it's faster and it's got all of these great things on it and I feel better because I've got it. And that's what our society does now. This is what consumerism is all about, to really work on that facet of human nature where we're making ourselves feel better. And so that's one way that we do it. So from feeling inferior to superior could be through designer clothing. It could be from going from a low-level holiday to something extravagant. There's many ways of doing this. So like I say, we live in a consumer society, and this is what we're doing all of the time. This is something that is difficult to get away from, because that's basically where we're at. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but we just need to realize where we are. And maybe we need to just take a kind of a leaf out of the books of the people that I met in Brazil, where they didn't have too much and they were just happy with what they had. In the UK, I found that the society was all about, you were always wanting more, always wanting more, always wanting more. For example, when I got my Mercedes, it had got alloy wheels on it, great. But like, people were saying to me, why didn't you get like the top of the range CD player in? Or why didn't you get aircon with it, you know? And it's like, I got a Mercedes, dude, you know. I'm happy. I mean, this is years and years ago when aircon wasn't that popular in the UK. Brazil, for example, somebody could come up. I mean, I've seen like eminent doctors, friend of mine, multimillionaire, and he's got a friend who comes up in some car which is half beaten up, 15 years old, and my friend has genuinely said to him, I am so proud of you for having this. I'm so happy for you. This is fantastic. You've got your car at last. Congratulations. And they were just happy for the fact that they had whatever they had. Sure, they tried to strive for more. They tried to get a better car. They tried to get a bigger television. But if they didn't have any of that, it wasn't a big deal. I know people who are so depressed. I met so many people in the UK who were depressed because they hadn't got the best thing. They couldn't spend money. They couldn't get the latest design or clothing or whatever. What is that all about? It's not doing us any good. And as my favourite saying from the UK is, it's not big and it's not clever. So, you know, we need to escape from not liking where we are sometimes, and that's why we're doing these things. You know, we're trying to escape from who we're with or what we're doing work-wise or career-wise, and this is why we use lots of methods for doing this. You know, this is why people drink or smoke or do drugs, etc. You know, why? Well, I mean, the end of it, well, we know that they do it, but what is the mechanism? Why are they doing it? Well, it's to get a state change. It's to change a state from feeling bad to feeling good again. So we're using external things to change the state of our mind effectively. Well, you can actually change the state of your mind without doing all of that. You can just decide to change your mind, your state of your mind. There are ways which are kind of easier to do and more effective. For example, great ways are through meditation, through yoga, Tai Chi. Another way, which is kind of crazy, if you look for Andy Shepherd rebounder, you'll see what I'm saying. Look on YouTube for that. And basically, a rebounder is great for giving you a state change. You crank some music on, jump up and down and dance on a rebounder. I promise you, you're going to get amazing state change. And if anybody's looking and watching you, they're going to get a great state change as well. So, you know, it always amazes me how much money people are spending on things that are going to give them this short-term state change and short-term pleasure, you know, versus long-term. And like, people will go out and they'll go and there's an epidemic of it, like in the UK. I don't know whether it's the same in America, but they go out on shopping sprees and they'll go out and buy a whole bunch of clothing, CDs, and maybe some electronic stuff, and come on their credit card, and they kind of feel good about it. They've got all of this stuff. Wow. But then it's hit their credit card and they're feeling bad about that, and they're getting more and more into debt. This is just terrible. I mean, wouldn't it be better to spend that money on something that's going to work? Maybe on an info product, maybe on doing Tai Chi classes, yoga classes, meditation, getting a coach to work on what is going on and how to get you into a better state. Things to think about. So basically, let's look at, well, how did we get what we have already? Well, some of us will say, well, we worked hard to get it, and we believe that we've got to work really, really hard to get whatever we want. And yeah, there is a fact of, part of it where you have to really apply and go for it. Some people say, well, we deserved it, and so that's why we got it. And some of it will be down to karma, down to cause and effect. But a big part of it is going to be down to law of attraction. So how can we use all of what I've said to get what we want and more of what we have already? So basically, success leaves clues, doesn't it? Tony Robbins agrees with me on that one as well. Let me just quickly talk to you about law of attraction, just to make this complete. If anybody has seen the film The Secret, then you'll know some of the stuff. Well, there's a few bits missing out of this, but I'm just going to give you a very brief recap on that to just share that with you, just to remind you. So the first of the thing that we need to do is we need to think about what we want to attract into our possession, whatever it is. We need to know that we deserve it, and that is a really key point, because we can think that we deserve it, but to know that we deserve it is a different matter, and it goes in at a much deeper level. So that's something to really be aware of. We need to imagine it in as completely as we can. So we've got like 4D cinema now. Well, we need to have we've got 5 sensors, so we need 6D. Let me explain. So you've got the 5 sensors and you need to try and visualize it on all of those levels, but we also need to have, your feeling is your tactile sense, but also you need to feel from kind of an emotional sense what's inside of you. What does it feel like to have that? That is a very critical part of it, and that's why I was saying, how does the Rolls Royce make you feel? Because that's what is going to really attract whatever it is that you're wanting to attract. And the final thing is to imagine that it is here and now, because this kind of short circuits everything. The universe can't have a vacuum, a reality vacuum. So it's going to give you whatever you're asking for. So that's pretty key. What I want to do is just open the mic up and answer any questions, or see if I can get some observations here. So
you've made some good points. Most people don't know what they want, and until they figure out what it is that they actually want, then they can move forward to get that. Am I correct?
That's right, yes. Well, what I'm really trying to say is that people want what they want for the wrong reasons. There are better reasons. People want like a Rolls Royce for significance. If you work on the significance, then you don't need the Rolls Royce anymore. So it depends on each person, but for Rolls Royce's point of view, maybe you could be spending your time and money on something more useful, for example. So you could be building your education, or I don't know, just doing something much better with that money. And that's just an example. Or maybe if you've got disposable income, then the Rolls Royce would be okay. But generally it probably isn't. We're buying stuff for the wrong reason. And especially in this consumer society, and like I said, in the UK, people going out and buying lots of clothing, and they're just or items and stuff, and it's just to make them feel good. So why don't they find a better way of making them feel good? They could be spending all that money on something that is going to do it on a permanent level.
Yeah, because basically everything we do is for feeling.
Yes, it is. It is ultimately. It is. It's down to the feeling it's going to give us. That's generally our motivation, And Absolutely. Do you have any questions or any other observations to make?
No, it's been a great call. Some of the things that you kind of brought up some good points that I've taken some notes, and it's been a great call.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Tom. Awesome. Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and wrap this session up. I'm just going to give my wrap-up session, and I'll talk to you offline. So thanks for listening and interacting. So the main points to remember are that the most important part of whatever we want and whatever we have is the feeling it gives us. We need to really focus on this and look and see if there are alternatives. This feeling also helps us to get what we want, as what we really want and what is the most useful, as it is an essential part of the steps of the law of attraction. We need to find out what is stopping us on a subconscious level from getting whatever we want and remove it. In my experience, the quickest and most effective way of doing this, like I said, is through coaching. There are other ways of doing it, and it depends on what you're doing. Some of them can literally take years to do. I've had results. Most of the time it can be between 30 and 60 minutes. So it would be great to hear from you or to coach you. So please give me a call on 310-774-6691 or go to successcoachandy.com to find out more information about me, and you can also contact me there. So next week on the Success Coach Andy podcast, I'll be talking about how to find your life purpose. So thank you all for listening, and see you on the next podcast. Bye for now.